Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports. After a long and tiring few weeks, I apologize. Was down in San Diego 2 weeks ago and then Los Angeles last week. So traveling to get back up into Seattle in time made recording the last few episodes next to impossible. And if you'll notice, because of some things that we had to work through yesterday, the November 27th episode is probably going to be out the 28th. So by the time you're seeing this, it is the next day. So I apologize for that. We're going to get back through it. Life throws stuff at you. So either way, we're here. I apologize for that. Of course, as always, I am your host, Charles Hamaker, here with you in the home studio. Some things have happened over the last few weeks. Some things have happened. And we'll start with our Seahawks, who hosted the San Francisco 49ers on Thanksgiving. It was the final game of 3 on Thanksgiving, and it was not exactly the best way to end the day if you're a Seahawks fan. The team struggled out the gate. The 49ers offense that we know is loaded with talent. Kyle Shanahan in that offense, there's a lot of talent already on the roster, but he can seem to do a lot with just about anything, and that happened in the first half. Seattle only gets 3 points, and those 3 points really only came because a de-escalated 66-yard kickoff return put Seattle in such great field position. Otherwise, they couldn't get much of anything going. There was concern coming into this game due to a triceps injury, an arm injury that Geno Smith had suffered on his throwing arm, in the loss to the Rams a week before, but this didn't really affect him. What does affect him, though, is the lack of better play calling, adjusting against a great front seven like the 49ers. Seattle was able to get their only touchdown of the game defensively as Jordan Brooks recorded his first interception, his first touchdown on a pick six down as the 49ers were pinned up against their own end zone. But otherwise, just a really embarrassing effort on national television that put Seattle in not a great place. There was a small hope that the NFC West could be in the realm of possibility if they were able to get this win. With this loss, it's highly, highly unlikely, and their playoff hopes are all already at this current point in time at about a 35% chance to make the playoffs. So, offensive player of the game, it's hard to look at this because there really wasn't much going on the offensive side of the ball for the Seahawks. Again, the play calling continues to struggle adjusting to what defenses are throwing at it. Obviously, Geno not getting much time is going to hurt him. And, people who kind of use a little part of their mind are just blaming the quarterback. But you look at the scheme of things, if you're playing a front seven like the 49ers, if we're talking strictly this game, if you're playing a front seven like the 49ers, you've got to get the ball out quickly. You've got to work around that pass rush. You've got to do things to mitigate that front seven. And the play calling hasn't done that. Play calling hasn't done that much at all this year, really. And it doesn't help that you're without your top running back, Kenneth Walker, but Zach Charbonnet, in terms of the entirety of this offense, had, not the worst game, 14 carries, 47 rushing yards. He's a strong backup running back, but just considering the pressure that's on him, the weird lack of design rush rate that this Seattle team has had, despite wanting to run the football more, talking about running the football more, we're not seeing that come into fruition, and I feel like it's hurting the Seahawks running game. So I went with Charbonnet there. On the defensive side of the ball, I talked about him already, but Jordan Brooks, 12 total tackles, 7 solo tackles, 1 pass deflection, and 1 pick six. Jordan Brooks continues to play well after, recovering from that ACL injury in a contract year. It's been pretty solid to see Jordan Brooks perform the way that he has performed next to Bobby Wagner and take up some added responsibility. And to get his first interception and his first touchdown in this game was nice to see. Not nice to see the rest of the game itself, but yeah, this one was a struggle. I talked about the injury things. We got some game day injury notes, but we'll look at the inactives here for this game. As I mentioned, Ken Walker is still out. Linebacker Frank Clark was inactive in this game as Seattle had practice squad quarterback Brett Rypien active for this game as they weren't sure how Geno was going to react with that injury. Offensive tackles McClendon Curtis and Raekwon O'Neal were inactive. Wide receiver Derek Young, who recently actually came back from injury, was inactive, and same with nose tackle Cameron Young. Some pre-game injury notes, some good, some bad. And I apologize. You see the busted lip. It's cold. I'm working on it. We'll deal with it. November 15th, right tackle Abraham Lucas returned to practice. He had obviously missed the first 8 games of the year with a knee injury suffered against the Rams in week 1, but had been on injured reserve since then. Day-to-day, he's working towards playing this week against the Cowboys on Thursday, but because of the odd schedule, playing on Thursday the week before, playing on Thursday this week, it's kind of up in the air. On the 20th, it was announced that Ken Walker is not an injured reserve candidate, but his oblique strain is going to take a bit to figure out, which is a little bit odd. There was maybe minor hope that he could go this week against the Cowboys, but it doesn't really sound like that's going to be something that's going to be a possibility. And then on November 21st, it was announced that rookie safety Jarek Reed II tore his ACL and will be out for the season. Through week 11, he was actually 3rd in the NFL in special teams tackles. He was a great story. He was a fun guy to look at during the draft when that took place. Impact player, obviously, on special teams, tore his ACL, unfortunately, which ends his season. So, and then injuries first of the 49ers. Outside of offensive tackle Jason Peters leaving the game with a shoulder stinger, and he was questionable to return with that and seems to be better since then. There were no other injuries to report, which is good news. You always like to get out of a game clean or, relatively clean. But and I won't spend too much time talking about it because that discourse has already taken place, and it's pretty clear what the issues are. The Seahawks aren't on the 49ers level. Simply put, Seattle is not there with San Francisco, despite, in bringing in Leonard Williams, drafting the way that they have, adding an offensive weapon in the draft. Yeah. Seattle's not there. And I don't necessarily think it's a talent thing. I think it's a play calling thing. You look at the way that Seahawks offense came out there and that lack of execution, not only that, but the positions that they were put in, it's not going to beat that team. When you're playing a good team like that, you've got to be disciplined, which Seattle is not, given how they lead the NFL in penalties. And when you get those opportunities to go ahead and play well against that talented defense, you have to execute on them, and Seattle didn't do that either. So all around it was embarrassing to lose the way that you did at home. It was embarrassing to lose that way that you did against a rival like the 49ers, and it was embarrassing to do so on national television. Jaron Reed and Quandre Diggs talked post-game about accountability. Yeah. Excuse me. This whole team needs to be accountable. That goes from the coaching staff to the players as well. It's not just on the players. The coaching staff is there to put this team in positions to win. They have a ton of talent on this Seattle roster. So yeah, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating to see that, and you kind of wonder, hey, you're 6-5 now. You're still in a wild card spot. Division's likely out of the picture. What are you going to do? That was just game 1 of this 4-game stretch of San Fran, Dallas. I think you might have San Fran again. I got to look at it. But anyway, in this 4-game stretch, you play San Fran, Dallas, Philly, and San Fran again. Are you going to go 0-4 in that stretch and knock yourself out of the playoffs? You could. It's very well possible. So, yeah, a lot of questions around this team. We've got some team-related news here on the 20th. Some positive, I guess, related news. Kobe Bryant was designated to return to practice on the 20th. On offensive tackle Jake Curran was signed to the practice squad on the 22nd. It was announced that linebacker Bobby Wagner was named as the team's nominee for the 9th annual Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award, which recognizes players around the league who exemplifies outstanding sportsmanship on the field, which, if you hear the talk about Bobby Wagner in the league, that sounds about right. And then on the 26th, the team signed Kelvin Joseph, a cornerback, and wide receiver Cody White to the practice squad. As a result to those moves, offensive guard Ben Brown was released, and outside linebacker Levi Bell was placed on injured reserve. So, as I just mentioned, Seattle is 6-5. They're second in the NFC West still, but they have 3 more games of an incredibly tough stretch to go. And the way that they just played uh, doesn't give you much hope for those 3 remaining games or making the playoffs in general. You might get Abraham Lucas back for this game. That's fine, but the play calling will be a big thing in my mind. So, next week, or this upcoming week, November 30th at the Dallas Cowboys. Thursday night is a 5:15 p.m. kickoff. The Seahawks will be in their throwbacks 90s era themed jerseys. Dallas is coming off of an absolute thrashing of the Washington Commanders in Dallas in the second game on Thursday. So it'll be very interesting to see how both of these teams, one coming off of a massive blowout victory, the other coming off of an embarrassing home loss, how those teams will clash and how they will react to each other. So, wow. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of expectation for the Mariners coming into this offseason, especially after the comments made by general manager Jerry DePoto at the end of the year press conference. And at least through late November, there's not much reason to be excited about it because the team on the 22nd went and traded third baseman, the bringer of good vibes, whatever you may have, whatever have you, um, Eugenio Suarez. And Eugenio Suarez was traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks on the 22nd for relief pitcher Carlos Vargas and catcher Zebi Savala. Arizona receives, obviously, third baseman Eugenio Suarez. Yeah, so that sucks. Gino joins Paul Sewald down in Arizona. Paul was happy about it, but this one kind of shocked me. I mean, given if you take a few things for base level that the team wanted to cut back on strikeouts, sure. Eugenio Suarez, that's a big part. I mean, especially this past season, and at least in the last few years, it's a big strikeout guy. Sure, understandable. He was due $11 million next season. Read into that how you will. This deal had reportedly been discussed for weeks, which I don't like. You lose a major clubhouse presence. Does that sound familiar? So unless there is a deal that is going to be in place to get a new everyday third baseman, remember, Gino played every single game last season. Didn't have the best offensive year, played Gold Glove caliber defense over on the hot corner, was huge in this clubhouse, was loved amongst Mariners fans. Unless there is another shoe that needs to drop with this deal, this is really bad. There's a discussion that the trade for the third baseman is already I'm sorry, that Seattle is already happy with Luis Arias and the trade that they made to acquire him, and they're happy placing him there every day. I don't like that one bit. I mean, unless there's a massive bounce back coming for him, like a massive bounce back, it's not good. It's really not good. There seems to be no hope in signing Shohei Ohtani. It doesn't seem like there's going to be much at all hope of any other big free agents coming here to Seattle. I don't think we're in for much of a good offseason. So the Mariners acquire a guy in Carlos Vargas who, has good stuff. I mean, we know what this organization can do with pitchers, and Zebi Savala, who really strong defensive catcher, not really much of anything on the offensive side of things. So Seattle looks to continue to get a backup catcher for Cal Raleigh. Doesn't know how this much really affects Tom Murphy and his potential to come back, but not great. Not great. Not feeling the good vibes, man. So, yesterday on the 27th, right-handed pitcher Ryan Jensen was claimed off of waivers by the Miami Marlins. So, a guy that the Mariners acquired this past year ends up going to the Marlins. So, there's that. Sticking with the not so great news, we head over to our Sounders, who, had gone through the first round of the MLS's Western Conference playoffs, beating FC Dallas in 3 games in that weird new format. Um, and then they were set to play LAFC. Obviously, there's some history of LAFC. Back in 2019, the Sounders beat them um, on their way to winning MLS Cup that year. So this LAFC had only beaten the Sounders once in their head-to-head history. Sounders had home field advantage. They had home field advantage for the rest of the Western Conference if they were able to make it that far. They're not. They weren't able to. Seattle loses at home by 1 goal. Our player of the match, midfielder João Paulo. JP, an 8.1 match rating, 86% passing, 2 chances created, and 2 shots on target. With this loss, the 19-game playoff home unbeaten streak is snapped. Um, yeah, not great. Not great. Seattle had 2 chances out of the box nearly immediately within the first 4 minutes, including a Jordan Morris breakaway with a chip attempt that was saved by Maxime Crepeau. Pardon me. You'll see here in our photo of the match by Liz Walter, kind of telling the story. Chiellini takes down Christian Roldan here just outside of the 18-yard box. Didn't get ball, but was not called by head referee Ted Uncle. You can kind of see the different reactions in the back. You can see Christian's reaction, Chiellini, not so much of a reaction there. Yeah, this game was very, very interesting. Um, it's a tough way to end this season. Again, I talked about all the things that kind of led into it. There's the playoff home unbeaten streak. It seemed like the team was on a good run of form. They had taken care of business against Dallas. Strong defensively. Stephen Fry's been playing out of his mind. It seemed like maybe your offense was chugging along a little bit. Your history against LAFC, you were largely, almost entirely healthy. AB Sissoko was out of this game with a left quad strain, but he hasn't really gotten minutes in a long time. Um, yeah, there was a lot of positive heading into this game until it wasn't. The first 4 minutes, you get those 2 big chances you can't convert, but you feel good about what you were generating. Denis Bouanga gets a goal later into that first half at about the 30-minute mark as he catches Alex Roldan was up high. Yemar tried to bite on the pass to Bouanga, and Bouanga, the MLS's Golden Boot winner, blazes by and gets one past Fry on a tough angle. Jackson Reagan had stayed home as he tried to block off the pass inside. Sure, I understand it. I'm not entirely too mad at the play. It's more so the lack of finishing there. After that goal, LAFC kind of went into a shell. There was some weird antics that came out of the half late. Uh, you know, uh, Denis Bouanga got like 5 warnings before ever getting a real card. Krapau got his first card, which should have got his second at that point in time, late into the match. But you can't blame everything on the referees. Seattle had plenty of chances, and they weren't able to convert. And that was the story of most of the summer there. Um, it's frustrating. Nico Ladero and Raul Ruiz Diaz both came off the bench. Neither of them were able to make much of an impact. There were some great shots late on goal by Alex Roldan, Albert Resnack, João Paulo. All of them went either over the bar or hit the bar and went out for a corner kick. Seattle dominated the offensive statistics. It just didn't matter because they couldn't get the goal to equalize or anything. So it's a big offseason. It's a big offseason for the Sounders. There's a lot to think about. But before that, before this match, on the 20th, it was announced that the club had made 2 internal promotions. Henry Bronner was named as the club's technical director, and Wade Weber, the head coach of the Tacoma Defiance, was named as the director of development. Weber will assume all responsibility of academy lead while also being responsible for the growth and further education of the Defiance players and staff members. So interesting there, with the development of this club, obviously with the big offseason, and going forward with some of those players, some of your key players getting older, development will be such a big thing for these Sounders. So as I mentioned, looking ahead, it's a big offseason. The club has new branding that we've already seen. Several key contracts are up. Nico Ladero has seemingly already, it's all but official that he's played his final match as a Sounder. So it'll be really interesting to see the different moves that Craig Weibel makes, um, and Brian Schmetzer, the input that he has. Obviously, it feels like you need an attacker up front. Leo Shu has made some great steps moving forward. I like where your midfielder's at. I would like to get Albert Rusnak back as the 10 and keep him there and not have to move him around. I like having Josh Atencio and João Paulo pairing down in that midfield like they have. Your defense has been relatively strong. So I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see um, this offseason. We'll certainly talk about the offseason in the next episode or so. But yeah, no, it's going to be pretty crucial to see what goes on from here and what Seattle does from here because there's a lot of good, but also stuff that needs to be fixed, obviously. So move over to our Kraken, who do play tonight. So we're trying to get this out as quickly as we can. Um, it seems like most of this season has been the theme of this season has been consistency, and that rang true once again today. This past week, starting it was a 3-game homestand for the Kraken. Uh, 3 of these games continued a 4-game stretch against all Pacific Division opponents, starting with a November 20th loss in overtime against the Calgary Flames, 3-4. This photo of the game by Liz Walter taking a Vince Dunn on the ice kind of it's kind of like how we all felt after this one. Our player of the game was Vince Dunn, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, 4 shots, 1 plus minus, and 1 block. Seattle had a lead going into it late. They gave up the equalizer, and they were unable to do much in overtime. Unfortunate, a wraparound chance gets rebounded, and Calgary is able to score that one. Joey Decord plays a largely great game. Seattle can't really help him out. Yeah, another one of these games where one period kind of lets you down, and they end up paying for it. They do get the 1 point from this loss, which we can say about a lot of these things with this Kraken team this year, but knowing that the 2 points was in hand basically is what's frustrating. We go a few days later, the day before Thanksgiving, and the Kraken take care of business against a historically bad Sharks team. On November 22nd, they beat the Sharks 7-1, including a 4-goal first period. All started off with Brendan Tanev's breakaway goal. He's able to finally finish one of those. And our photo of the game by Sage Zepeto. Our player of the game, though, with a 4-point night, was the maestro Oliver Bjorkstrand. 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points, a 3 plus minus, and 2 shots for Oliver in that game. And then so you feel positive, right? After this big win against the Sharks. Obviously, it's the Sharks. It was almost expected, maybe not 7 goals, but you kind of said, hey, you need to win this game no matter what. You can't mess around and have this be a sneak by. So you feel good coming off of that. And then you're going into play a Vancouver Canucks team that you had beaten the week before and had lost 3 of their last 4 games. Obviously, it's different. You can't just look at that and say, hey, we're going to steamroll these guys, given that, because it went the other way. Seattle lost this game by a score of 1-5 to close out their homestand with a 1-2 record. Technically a 1 win, 1 regulation loss, 1 overtime loss record, but you get the point. No player of the game for you for this one, just because of how frustrating this one was. And this photo of the game by Sage really kind of shows it. This fight in the 3rd period, excuse me, Yanni Gord. Finally, some pushback after Brendan Tanev had been hit by Nils Hoglander, and Oliver Bjorkstrand had been hit by Tyler Myers. Yes, that Tyler Myers that knocked out Matty Beniers last year and kept him out of the All-Star game. Both Bjorkstrand and Tanev left that game and did not return. Tanev has not been seen skating with the team since, and Bjorkstrand was seen skating the next day. But there's some thought that he might not be able to go today. That's a rumor. I don't know if that's entirely true. This one sucks. Seattle had 4 power play opportunities in the first period, was unable to do anything there, and then to start the second period, a strong push, but nothing that mattered in that one. They got a late goal in the second period that didn't really end up mattering, as Vancouver ended up pulling away in the third there. It's a consistency. I don't know. It's nothing has changed with this team. They're consistently inconsistent. they'll do things good. Uh, they'll do a lot of things good, but the bad things will compound largely into one period, and they'll end up affecting the rest of the game, whether it be in the first, in the second, or in the third. That's what's happening with this Kraken team. There's been a lot of back and forth, and we'll get to that with the roster related moves. Um, but I'm not seeing a lot of like new issues with this team per se. It's just the inconsistency level is so high with this team. We see what they can do. They're not doing it for a full 60 minutes. So, and I don't know how much of it's an effort thing per se, as much of it's a execution thing over those 60 minutes. So I don't, it's very frustrating to see play out, because you know what this team is capable of. We know what this team is capable of. We've seen it from time to time this season. Um, but they're just not doing it for the full game. So, in injury related news and such, on the 24th, Andre Burakovsky was seen with the team for morning skate in a red non contact jersey. Um, the day before, he was seen doing individual work in a normal jersey before the team got in their normal skate. Um, well, their practice. So he wasn't with the team then. The next day, he was with the team in a non contact jersey. Um, as I mentioned, Brandon Tanev left the game against the Canucks with a lower body injury. He has not been seen practicing since, and I don't believe he is with the team on the road trip. 1 minute. Tanev is day to day, but is unavailable tonight. So there's that. On the 25th, there was nothing new on Tanev at that current point in time. I was unsure if people were traveling with the team, but given that thing I just read, I imagine he is. Philip Grubauer, who was injured in the loss to the Flames, will travel with the team, but no update from his day-to-day status. He is getting the start tonight in goal for the Kraken. So there's your update on that. Here we go with the roster bouncing up and down. On the 21st, the team recalled goaltender Chris Drieger from the AHL Coachella Valley Firebirds as a corresponding move to Grubauer's injury. On the 23rd, the team reassigned forward Andrew Podorowski to the AHL Coachella Valley Firebirds, with Tanev coming back. On the 25th, the team reassigned Chris Drieger back to the AHL. Didn't get any time here with the Kraken. He was practicing, and he was the backup, but he didn't get any action. On the 27th, the team recalled forward Andrew Podorowski from the Firebirds, just 4 days after sending him down. Today, the team recalled forward Marian Sudanich from the Firebirds. With Podorowski set to slot in, I imagine Sudanich is just there as a healthy scratch. But that's the only sort of update that we've gotten. So, yeah, a lot of bouncing up and down for Driegs, Potts, and Studs. Well, not Studs so much, but Driegs and Potts. So, yeah, this poor team, man. The inconsistencies, the injuries. Berkey's working his way back. Tanev had just gotten back. Um, yeah, really, really tough. Talking about getting consistency, you're not getting consistency from your lineup because guys are hurt. So, also, what happened on the 22nd, the team unveiled the Winter Classic jerseys. Obviously, we've seen the leaks. So if you haven't seen the leaks, here they are. Um, on the right, the Utah Jazz, which was the first one, the Utah Jazz posted their walk-in photos with Walker Kessler and John Collins. Walker Kessler's there pictured, wearing it on Friday, last Friday, and everybody was kind of like, what in the hell is happening? 2 Fridays ago. I apologize. Everybody was like, "What's happening? Why do they have these? They look great, but why?" Then the next day, AEW posted with the jersey in the photo, in the middle photo you see there. And then Micah Parsons on Monday was seen with the jersey on his podcast/weekly show in the background. So we're like, "What the hell? Why isn't the team said anything?" Well, one, because it's a league run event. The Winter Classic is a league run event, so the team doesn't really have too much control over it. And two, when are we going to get the full reveal? On the 22nd, morning skate of the 22nd, ahead of the Sharks game, we got that official reveal, and we'll go over some photos here by Sage Sabeto that she took um, at the layer, the Kraken team store within the Climate Pledge Arena, ahead of the game with the jerseys officially revealed. They look great. They look great. The collar is knitted. the red jerseys that you see with the red numbers, I apologize, the red numbers that you see and the logo on the front are felt, which is really nice to see. Obviously, this was back. This is paying homage to the Seattle Metropolitans and their 1917 Stanley Cup winning team, the first North American team to win the Stanley Cup ever. Uh, and you can see, obviously, you can see the jerseys there. And then this photo here, those Metropolitans, you can see obviously the striping, the S logo that says Seattle. They're similar. Obviously, the Kraken S here has the word Kraken in it. You can see the striping with the blues and that cream color, that red alert red on the numbers, that cream in the name as well. So I think it looks great. Personally, I don't think it was ever a question of them looking great. Um, but more so how they were revealed and such. On the inside collar is the number 1917. Obviously, like I just said, the 1917 year when the Metropolitans won the Stanley Cup. Um, all of the Kraken team stores have merchandise for the jerseys and the jerseys themselves. The only stores that can't make them customized is the Armory, and that could have updated by now, but that was the last that I was told. They should have more merchandise coming out as we lead into that actual Winter Classic game on the first at T-Mobile Park. Um, Obviously, Seattle's first outdoor game, but yeah, really exciting to see this. Really love the way they turned out. Really happy with all of that. Not happy so much with um, how it all happened, but yeah, not the best. With the way the release happened, but happy with how they looked, happy with um, how the boys are going to look in them. I just really am curious to see um, what else is going to come about it. Looks like crap. I will just say that straight up. But nice to really pay homage to some Seattle history here, um, and something nice to be happy about as this team has its inconsistent struggles, as we talked about. So, speaking of which, the Kraken sit at an 8-win, 9-loss, 5 overtime loss record. They are 5th in the Pacific Division right now. They fell behind Calgary um, with 21 points. Looking ahead, they play tonight, November 28th, at the Chicago Blackhawks with a 5:30 p.m. Pacific time puck drop. Um, if you're not aware, there is some drama going on around Chicago regarding Corey Perry. They're supposed to be having a press conference pretty soon, actually, um, to address this. So that will be very interesting. But Connor Bedard is obviously on this team, the top draft pick, supposed to be a generational player. Former Thunderbird Kevin Korchinski is on this team, and former Kraken Ryan Donato is also on this team. So it'll be interesting to see how Seattle fares tonight against a Chicago team that isn't exactly a wagon, but isn't a bad team per se. And then to continue a 4-game road trip, the second game of this week, uh, they will head over up to Toronto to play the Maple Leafs on November 30th with a 4 p.m. puck drop. Both of these games will be on Root Sport. So, moving on from Kraken there, it's an interesting time for the OL Reign in the offseason. There's some big things to prepare for, largely looking at the expansion draft. And the Reign are kind of getting prepared for that with some offseason moves that they announced. On the 20th, defender Jimena Lopez and midfielder Luani will continue their respective loans in Liga F, the top tier women's football league in Spain, until the end of June 2024. The club is in the process of extending option on defender Shea Holmes. Contract talks are currently ongoing with goalkeepers Laurel Ivory and Maya Perez, midfielder Olivia Athens, defenders Ryan Brown and Alyssa Melanson, and the club waived the rights of midfielder Marley Canales. So that was announced ahead of the team having a press conference. At the end of the season press conference, which was kind of unprecedented in the NWSL here. Basically, some of the big takeaways there is Laura Harvey loves being here in Seattle. So, and also without officially saying it, the Reign aren't going to sign Rose Lavelle and Emily Sonnet until the expansion draft is done, or until they essentially have guaranteed protection for them. Because there's no point in signing those two, because free agents are exempt from the expansion draft. So the Reign don't have to protect those two heading into the expansion draft. There's no need for them to sign them until then. There's a lot of speculation on stuff on certain Facebook groups or social media about why those two haven't been signed. That's why. This is as simple as it is. I think people are making a lot of something out of nothing. So, other than that, there's a lot of international call-ups as we go here. 3 players from the Reign were named to the U.S. Women's National Team ahead of December friendlies, including defenders Alana Cook and Emily Sonnet, as well as midfielder Rose Lavelle. On the 21st, Angelina was called into international duty with Brazil for their friendly match upcoming against Japan. On November 23rd, Canada called in Jordan Heidema and Quinn for friendlies against Australia. And then the last we found yesterday, the 27th, Wales called in Jess Fishlock ahead of the December 1st UEFA Nations League A Group 3 Round 5 match against Iceland. So that is that for the past week in Reign news. There's some upcoming important dates, though, for the Reign. On the 12th of December is the expansion draft. The Utah Royals and Bay FC will have their respective picks. There will be 12 players picked by those two teams. Each team get 12 players. Yep. Some teams have already made trades with these teams to give them protection in the expansion draft. The Reign are not one of them. The general manager Leslie Galmore did talk about the potential of doing something like that, so we might see something like that happen. But it's a very interesting time. It's already tough. Last time this happened with Angel City and San Diego Wave, Kristen McNabb and Denny Weatherholt were taken. A few of the Reign players actually ended up down with those clubs after not being picked by them. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see with those two respective clubs coming in the NWSL, which players from our Reign either will get moved for protection from the expansion draft or will be taken in the actual expansion draft itself. So there's a 12th, and then a month later, on January 12th, is an entry draft. The Reign only have 2 of their 4 potential picks. There are only 4 rounds in the draft. They have their second round pick and their 4th round pick. That first round pick was involved with the trade for Emily Sonnet this past year. So it'll be very interesting to see I'm only worried about the expansion draft. The entry draft, sure, but the expansion draft is largely where my mind is going because I'm worried about that. So that wraps up this week's episode of Circling Sales Sports on Converge Media. I apologize. Again, life happens. A lot of stuff has gone into not being able to go the last 2 weeks, and this week not being able to be in studio or be on time. So I apologize for that. Until we see you next week in the month of December, I hope that I've been able to take care of this busted up bottom lip. Until I see you then, take care of yourselves. Be well, be warm, and do whatever you can to make today a great day. Love you. Take care.